Welcome, Spirit Bus 33. Hey, fam. Thanks for being here. Sending out a lot of love, gratitude. Really appreciate those of you connecting with me through this podcast journey. A little late on the recording. Life shows up and was unable to record on Sunday. But feeling really energetic today. You know, when you have these like friendships that are just so amazing that when you're around them, you feel so inspired. And that's how I feel today after having a picnic with a dear friend. And so felt motivated to get this kind of going. Didn't do it last week. Typically try to record on Sundays. I don't know. That might not even be the preferred day. But last week we did have a Father's Day. So happy Father's Day. Shout out to all the fathers here having this earth experience and that are in other realms. Uh, maybe planning their next incarnation, or maybe they're done. Maybe they figured out how to not incarnate, or you know, whatever is going on out there to all the father figures that are here. Um, my father was a pretty complex man. He was like witty and fun. He had this really like spiritual side to him and was loving. And he was also like had some reckless uh, behaviors, riddled with his own vices, like many of us are. And he would, when he would send me a card, any card that he sent me, it would be love, bad dad, on the bottom. He had some of this like outlaw energy, this yin yang about him. And so a shout out to him wherever you are, Dad. Much love to you. And he's probably riding his Harley wherever he's at. He's got a hottie on the back, wiping snow from his face. He's got some type of like shirt on that has some kind of like inappropriate like comments on it or something of the sort. And he is listening to that Hotel California Eagles song, stopping to do the doodah dance. And he had this great dance, this little kind of a shuffle that he did. That Hotel California song, one of his favorite. For sure, for sure. Eagles getting down with the baddies on that song. A line in that song says, "We are all just prisoners here of our own device." And that lyric has always stood out to me. So when I think about that song, that kind of plays in my head, of our own device, a thing made for a particular purpose solely because of choices we've made. It's kind of like creating our own prisons, so to speak. Sometimes literally a prison, but creating our own prisons, which, addiction comes to mind, which can feel like a prison. We might break free, feel like we're on a roll, and then we're flowing, we're feeling harmonious, and then we get this full body activation, hijacked, completely hijacked. Just these cravings. We try to ride the wave, get through it, or we relapse. Either way, it can feel a little bit, like a prison. The choices that we make every day can feel like little types of little prisons. Engaging in behaviors that we're really not aligned with. There can be like the shame prison, the regret prison. I want to do this activity with you. If you could pause this and grab a notebook or something that you can kind of keep track. We're going to try to identify some of our own prisons and our own conditioning, the things that hold us back, and kind of start a little activity to hopefully, help you if you're feeling stuck. So when you have that ready, draw a box and draw a little person inside the box, a little stick figure of yourself or a representation of that. And then I want you to take a moment and visualize your favorite version of yourself. Maybe it's a goal that you're working on. Maybe it's a version of yourself that you're aligned with that is not currently showing up. And there's going to be 3 columns here. And I want you to make a list. And in each of these categories or columns, pertaining to how to get to this version of you. And you may need to do this several times with, 3 separate columns, depending if it's multifaceted. But the first column is going to be that you have 0 control over what you want. Like you're visualizing, something that you have no control over changing. So things in that column. And then the second column is going to be you do have control over changing these things, but you need resources that you don't have yet. And get real with yourself. Don't bullshit yourself through this, but get real with yourself on these categories. So the second one is you need some resources to change that you don't have yet, and you're going to brainstorm about that. Third column is really you could be working on this right now. And so then taking column number 3 is taking a look at that column 3, put it into order from the easiest step to the hardest step, easiest first. And once you have that done, is to take that easiest step and see how many smaller steps that you can break that down into to make them very attainable, small. And then once you have that broken down as small as you can get, you start with the smallest step. And there's your beginning. And then you have a start date. And that may be today. Or you may like to start things on a Monday, trying to not get too conditioned to have to start on a specific time. That can be a barrier. But you keep doing that. And then once you have that first step completed, or you feel like you've mastered it, maybe it has become part of your routine, so it feels like a habit, then you move on to the second step and you continue to go through all of those can work on now. While you're reflecting on some of those steps might lead you to some resources for the category number 2. The ones that you have 0 control over is to continuously check in on those of, has that changed? Do I need to move them to a different category? Or perhaps it is just that you have 0 control. Is that, I have 0 control over who has passed away, let's just say. I can't bring them back that I'm aware of. I don't believe that we have the ability to do that. Haven't heard anyone has tapped into that. Uh, so it has 0 control. So I might take that and say, what pieces of that do I have control over? Well, I can still talk to them. I can lean more into a belief system about it. It's figuring out where your circle of control is. But some of it you're going to have no control over. And that's when you're going to practice that radical acceptance. Is that there's nothing you can do about it, and you're going to build up tolerance for the distress of that while focusing on what you can change. So going back to that column number 3. One of the decks I'm using, which I've mentioned before, is that Jewel Kim Self-Love Affirmations and Reflections deck. One of the cards is my potential for transformation is infinite. Think about that for a moment. Your potential is infinite. I don't know, like, if you can feel that, like feeling that you can transform infinitely. If you can't feel that internally, if you if you don't have buy-in for that, if you can't get that to ring true, I highly suggest that you reach out and work with somebody. Just doing a check-in. Maybe it be a mentor, a sponsor, a therapist, a coach, your spirit guides. You know, you can reach out to me and I can help connect you to someone or brainstorm, on who do you need to link up with to be able to get to that point internally. In the meantime, while we're trying to figure that out, we're cultivating this hope. It reminds me of hope molecules. Do a little dive on that. It's good. So these small proteins are released into our bloodstream when our muscles contract. So for a moment, just take a moment and just, unless you have a medical condition, pay attention to this, get cleared by your doctor, don't do anything that you don't feel aligned with. But for just a moment, just tense up. Let's kind of squeeze your fists into a ball and tense up your shoulder area, not too tight to where you're pulling a muscle, just a light tense and then relax. A little contraction and relax. What happens when you're contracting your muscles is that, so I just said the small proteins are released in the bloodstream. They travel up to the brain, they cross the blood-brain barrier, and blam, natural serotonin, a shift, some improved mood, some decreased depression, decreased anxiety. It helps rewire a traumatized brain. You're creating new neural pathways. You're loving yourself when you're doing it. You're taking time out and saying, I love myself so much that I'm going to do this healthy thing. It's increasing resilience to stress, decreasing the impact of stress, and it protects the brain against the negative impact of aging. So, and that's just to mention just a couple, like just a small amount of this. And again, this is kind of returning back to the repetitive things that I'm saying of this importance of these mind body belief system, practices that we have. And body is such a huge one. And for myself as somebody who started my healing journey in a heady way, more in my belief system and my mind, and wasn't paying a lot of attention to the body. And remember, our body keeps the score of what we're going on. Is that once I started really honing more in on the body, like what a difference. Huge difference. And I'm still working on that. I mean, these are all still, as I'm speaking about that, I have to do these same things myself. So body is a very important part of the healing journey of the equation. It helps us regulate, helps us not go off the rails and whatever your off the rails are. We all have our own off the rails definition here. It helps those of us that have that bad dad generational kind of outlaw energy. It assists with the energy being harnessed in a more productive way. Maybe still kicking down some unhealthy, unethical walls that are placed around us, those boxes, so to speak, but we're doing it in a more regulated way. So, in a wrap up here, is that it's to take some time and work on this piece, to really focus on what do you want from this experience here? What are some areas in your life that you feel stuck, that you feel like there's a box around you that is a repetition? It keeps coming to your mind over and over again of like change needs to happen, or, you feel unhealthy in certain ways. Perhaps there's addiction, that needs to be worked on. And so using this tool as a way of moving forward, even if it's just for creative endeavors, is that the box around you might be barriers to creativity. And so having tools like this, and there's a lot of other takes on this as well. All right. Well, I got through that quick. Nice. Okay. All right, let's do a little reading here. Again from the Osho deck, card number 21. Saved you the laps here. Just shuffled. Got it pulled out. So we're going to do a 3 card 21 for the 21, day 21. Okay. So the first one is breakthrough. So for a moment too, I'd like for you to just stop and think about the box that I kind of brought up earlier. And I'd like for you to take some time and think through boxes that you have already broken through, barriers that you've already broken through, goals you've already met, and take a moment to either now pausing or with that exercise is thinking about the goals, the transformations that you've already experienced. I think that's important because we can reach a point where we do not think that we have the ability, or we think we're stuck, or it's important to recognize the breakthroughs that we've already had and the transformations that have come up. The outsider card just came up, which is looking at them over there and thinking, oh, I can't do that. They have this more than me, or that more than me, or they're more educated than me. It's nice to hear. They have something more than I do. I couldn't make a change. I couldn't do that. And realizing that all it takes is just walking over there, vulnerability, and doing what you feel called to do, and knowing that you're worthy, you're intelligent enough, you're creative enough. No one is you. No one can do anything the way that you can because you have a unique expression attached to it. Nobody else has that. Is that we may have some kind of repetitiveness, in the way that we may have some similarities in the way that we do things, but everyone does them with their own unique expression. And the third card, moment to moment, is really thinking about this as this is a flow art, is let's stay present and grounded and centered. And let's just step moment to moment through this dance, through this creation, through this transformation. Beautiful. Well, I hope that you got something out of this here. I hope that you are reaching for all of your goals, for your dreams, for your next favorite version of you. That if you're stuck in trauma responses, I hope you're working with someone to break free from that conditioning. If you're stuck in addictions, I hope that you're, becoming aware, that you're recognizing, the reasons why you want to escape or avoid, and that you're looking at how much can you experience? How can you be happy, really? Like, let's be happy. Let's try to like enjoy this. It doesn't mean that we're going to only experience happy emotions. That is leaning into that toxic positivity. But it's like, let's have some play here. Let's have the journey be fun, be exciting, and, enjoy the fluctuation, the ups and downs, enjoy one another, and just shine light. If you're listening to this and you're vibing with this, I'm gonna guess you got some light. You got some light to shine. Like I want to see it. If you feel aligned with it, feel free to comment, if there's, what's your light? What are you working on? What box you kicking down? I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining me. This one went a little shorter. So, I go a little fast through some of these, go slow through some others. It's interesting I'm always aiming for 33 minutes. Today's gonna be just about 20 some odd. Um, Again, a lot of gratitude. I'm going to put this on Spotify. I'm not sure if I already mentioned on Patreon, YouTube, and then I am looking into Rumble. So this might end up being on that. Any suggestions on other platforms, um, go ahead and put that in the comments, or like many of you do, is just get a hold of me through Instagram or TikTok, one of those places. But all right, we're off another week. Take care, fam.